Truth and Diversity System. This is part 3 of a campaign along with Share the Mic and Cyber. So part 3 of bringing you some really awesome people operating in the cybersecurity spheres. I'm O'Shea Bowens, one of the guests of IDS.
And I am Sienna Del Vasto, one of the other hosts of IDS, and we are super excited to be joined by a slew of wonderful, talented other practitioners here in cybersecurity. And we're going to go ahead and just jump into introductions. But what we're going to ask them to do is share their name, what they do in cybersecurity, how long they've been in the industry, and just because I like reading books, I'm going to ask them what is their favorite book, either personal or professional, and if they want to admit a guilty pleasure, please do. I totally encourage that. But if you don't, it's totally fine. So,
hit the trifecta.
Dab it. I'm going for you, homie. You're on mute. You're on mute.
See, I wasn't prepared to go first.
Got you.
I'm Davin Jackson, also known as DJax Alpha on Twitter and Instagram. I am a penetration tester by trade. I also run a blog, alphacybersecurity.tech, and I'm also the host of InfoSec Unplugged, which is just a weekly podcast where I interview people all over tech and cybersecurity, just kind of talk about the ups and downs and the unplugged, uncut version of it. I've been in tech overall now about 15 years. Probably about the last 8 or so has been something related to cybersecurity and penetration testing. Started out, like I said, started literally as a PC technician on the side working at Circuit City back in the day, and just kind of worked my way up through help desk spots and eventually desktop support roles, and then sysadmin roles for like education systems and other companies. So currently I am reading, Nicole Perlos's new book. This is How They Tell Me the World Ends, which is a race for the cyber arms race. I literally just got it, so I literally just kind of opened the book. So I guess you wouldn't call that technically reading it. And just kind of rereading the 4 Agreements. This is from Don Miguel Ruiz. So rereading that book just to kind of remind myself of the 4 Agreements and stuff. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm reading, and I am glad to be on this panel.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Ms. Spicer?
Yes. Hi, my name is Jeree Spicer. I know I said in the chat to say my last name because everyone says Jerry. It's not Jerry. That's my dad's name, my granddad's name, oldest brother. So yeah, they like to keep it in the family. But Jeree Spicer, put Spice on it on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I have only been in the cybersecurity field for going on 3 years. Started off in criminal justice. I've always been a fan of technology. My aunt has been in the IT field for over 20 years, and I can remember back to age 5, she was the one who got me my first laptop, taught me how to type. She's worked for EDS, HP, Ally. I've been to all those jobs when I was younger, and I went through a thing called post-grad depression, thought I was going to be a lawyer, thought I was going to be a social worker, and then I landed at a master's program for cybersecurity. I thought it was the worst thing I ever did. The first 3 months I struggled. I cried, and then I had some pretty awesome classmates, and then ever since then, I've been passionate about it. I would say right now I'm in the risk and governance type of space. I'm a business line risk manager at Ally Financial, and I work on the infrastructure side, so I manage all of the security and risk of that side. Have 2 certifications, Certified Ethical Hacker and CHFI, Computer Hack and Forensic Investigator. My interest is everywhere. I want to be a well-rounded cybersecurity professional. I thought at one point I only wanted to do vulnerability management. That is a lie. I want to do everything. I am not the most technical person. I am both non-technical and technical. I do have a blog, Read the Cyber Boss. And you can follow that, https www.readthecyberboss.com. It's just a blog like for the culture, and I want to provide this blog for those who are intimidated by cybersecurity, and I kind of want to put an emphasis on Blacks in cybersecurity because we only make up 3%. I mean, and if we take that 3% away, a lot of African American women do not represent that. So I want to, it's for the culture, and I want it to be, it's raw, it's the truth. And unfortunately, I'm not reading any books right now, so I'll say a guilty pleasure. I have been binge watching Grey's Anatomy since February 1st, and yes, so I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for definitely thanks for coming. I thought that 3% was mostly women. It's or maybe the uptick is women. So the uptick is women in cyber. Okay, yeah. So it's trending more towards women in cyber because more Black women get degrees than Black men. But yeah, we can definitely dive into that. I have a feeling that that's going to come back around. I hope I don't mispronounce this. Kaleo?
Kalila. You're really close.
I'm gonna come back again. And next up is Kalila.
Okay. Hi everybody. My name is Kalila. Most people call me Kiki. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter at Kiki Twice, and I have a women's organization called TechSec Chicks. So you can find them at TechSec Chicks on Instagram or Twitter. Currently, I am a third-year information security student with Purdue. Right now, I'm working like a help desk position. That's kind of what I've been doing since I've been in school, just trying to get any kind of hands-on training that I can get. And coming in May, I'm starting my first information security internship with a major insurance company. So pretty excited about that. I'm gonna dive into my group, the TechSec Chicks. And what it is that I wanted to have a safe space for women in tech to be able to fellowship and really just kind of support one another. We provide different resources. It's for women that may be transitioning into tech or are already in the field and have been in the field for some time. And so what we do is we just support one another. I definitely want to take it further to provide even more resources, but I am poor, so we are working on that. But yeah, it's just good to have a safe space because one thing that I remember feeling getting into this industry was I felt like I was alone. I felt like, yes, I have the support of my friends and family, but they don't really get the tech aspect of things. And so we created this sisterhood so that way we can always be there for one another. And we literally are like just a whole group of sisters from all across literally the globe. We have some of the chicks that are like in the Netherlands, in Germany, we're just kind of spread out everywhere, but I definitely like it, and it's given me an opportunity to really reach out and give back. Focusing on questions. So I'm not reading any books. I'm like Dree, like I got nothing. I got nothing on the book side. However, my guilty pleasure is like ratchet reality TV. Like, oh my gosh. I love me some Love at the Lockup or the Housewives. And, that's my little guilty pleasure because it just tickles me. It's like, people are rich and they still act crazy. So, but yes, that's a little bit about myself.
I love that because I think everybody needs an outlet, and I do the same thing. I love watching The Real Housewives. It gets me going, and it just gets you out of that mindset. I know when it comes to books, I find myself, I have a ton of tech books, and I had to stop myself because I love reading, but I was reading a lot of technology things and learning and building my skills, which is great. But then I wasn't an outlet, so then I had to give myself like a book here and there. But I think that's great, and I do want to. I'll probably bring it up later. I want to ask you some stuff about that TechSec chick stuff because I think it's important, especially for women in cybersecurity and in general to have a sisterhood, and it plays a key role. But I'm going to go ahead and popcorn over to Ozzy.
Hi, so my name is Ozzy. I actually have a longer name, but I don't want to get into the whole masterclass thing, teaching you how to pronounce my name. So Ozzy is fine. I have been I'm currently an application security engineer at Itrebo. I have been in the field for about 2 years and a couple of weeks. So books I'm currently reading, I actually just finished reading a book called Hackable, How to Do Application Security Right, authored by Ted Harrington. Very great book. So if you're looking to like build your application security program from the bottom up, it gives you actionable tips based on his experience on how to get it started, how to do it right. And the next book I'm planning on reading is This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends by Nico Pelroth, talking about the cyber arms race, that whole thing about the next battlefield is not going to be like on some desert or in some place, it's going to be on the internet. So that's the next book I plan to read.
Number 2, jeez.
Yeah, right? I was just like, okay, now I need to pick up this book. And you're going to have to send me this AppSec book too. I'm going to have to pay you later for that. And I'm going to go ahead and popcorn over to Marty.
Hello, my name is Marty Escabel, and thanks for having me. What do? I am a data protection professional for the Colorado Department of Human Services. Deal with a lot of vulnerable and marginalized populations, especially when it comes to their use of data and protection of data. How long have I been in the industry? Well, in the data protection side, around 11 years. I used to be engineer for a Hewlett Packard software firmware. And then I transitioned, went to law school. And in law school, I was actually, I got into compliance with police oversight. What a relevant topic today. Yes, some things still are very slow. What I'm trying to do, and why this is very nice, is because given my focus, I was a privacy officer in this information security department over at Children's Hospital here in Colorado. I have like I said, a legal degree, a technical degree, and I have information security certifications. And that's why I use data protection, because I do stuff both on the information security side as well as the privacy side. And one of the things I try to do is integrate data, technology, and security being both on privacy and information side, especially, and what I'm trying to do, and luckily in Colorado, they're receptive to this, is start discussions on the impact of these 3 areas on marginalized populations, because no one speaks for them. They're not able to speak for themselves. They're often areas that if they speak out, they can be penalized by the system that they're in. So that's one of the things, and that's part of my role being in human services, is to recognize that. And even today, I brought up the issue of EDI demographics in a meeting, and it wasn't an issue that anyone had brought up before, and how we treat those demographics and the harm that can come. One of them being is in gender and our evolving understanding of gender. Because especially with transgender people, they're at risk, and transgender people of color are at high risk. 50% suicide rate, I think, with that population. So that's where my little niche is, and speak about it. And slowly, I do give a presentation on what I call DTL and EDI, data, technology, and law, for EDI, equity, inclusion, and diversity. On the Latino side, it's unfortunately not as mature as on the Black side, and that's something I really admire, seeing all these different support structures on the Black side, because there are not a lot on the Latino side. I'm trying to build it. It's kind of lonely here in Denver, Colorado, on that. Rocky Mountain, and yes, we're getting some serious snow in the next few days, and I do snowboard. I don't have a handle. I'm not on social media. Actually, I discourage social media because I'm like, what you say can be used against you. And so I teach that to my little kids. I mean, a lot of times, college applications and all that, they do look through that. So I say, try to operate under the radar. That's the best. I know it goes counter to a lot of things. And I can speak a lot on these issues since I do. That's my life. But I guess I'll move on. A book I'm currently reading, it's called Nothing Technical. I can't handle more technical stuff after a certain point. It's called Across the Green Grass Fields. It's by Shannon McGuire. I'm not sure how to say the name. But it's just, she does very well at describing, the difficulty of growing up and being different as kids, and does it with a very compassionate eye. And especially now, that's what I'm encouraging: be generous and compassionate with each other. It's been hard for all of us. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy you joined us, and I'm gonna have to take down re-listen to this, because I'm gonna have to take down that book too. You guys are dropping really great books and key information, and a lot of the stuff that you're working into, I want us to dive into later. But I'm gonna go ahead and pop over to Mckenna.
Hi everybody, name's Mckenna Yankee. Twitter handle is Mighty Mischief. So what do? I am a systems security administrator, but I just recently accepted a role as a security engineer for a fintech company. So very excited about that. I'm like, yes, got a title, that feels good. I have been in the industry I've been in tech for about 5 years, and security for about a year and a half now. So still a baby, still very junior and noobish, but learning, and I'm excited about it. Another thing that I do is just like Kiki, because I don't want to mess up your name, I'm sorry. But I also am a head of membership and volunteer at the Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu. We recently just launched the Dallas chapter down here amidst COVID. So that was really interesting to get together with another couple of group of amazing women to launch that chapter and create a community for women here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where we are able to empower and lift each other up through our journey in cybersecurity. And we take care of women who are trying to transition into the industry and women who have been in the industry for years. So it's been phenomenal. I've met some amazing people. I've established myself with some mentors. So it's phenomenal, and we're hoping to continue to grow our membership and help people, get further in their career, much like I've been helped. A book that I'm currently reading, we are actually hosting Lauren Hashon for a webinar about how to develop yourself as a woman in tech. And so I've been reading her book called Develop Her, and it's amazing. It gives some quick pointers on how to establish your value, find your value, and then use that value to push yourself forward in your career. And it's been phenomenal. And I've taken a lot of things out of her book to help me get moving in my career. And I think that a lot of that information that I've had has been very useful as I got this new position. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to be here with all these other amazing people. So thank you for having me.
Now I'm questioning, since you've got the in at the Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, is that where you guys got the idea for the cyber security con that's coming up?
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, I'm actually also helping with that con that we're having. So very excited to help get that set up. But yeah, we were discussing a lot about what we wanted that convention to be about, and it's going to be about securing the future of cybersecurity for women, especially women of color in cybersecurity. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That is definitely where we picked up some of it from.
I love that. Awesome. All right, and now last but certainly not least, Stephen.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Stephen Asifo. My handle is @Asifo_says. I am in the Bay Area. I've been working in IT for 7 years, but I've been working in cybersecurity specifically for about 4 years now. I work at Verizon Media, which is formerly Yahoo, and I work in GRC, where I manage a team that focuses on helping the business account for cybersecurity risks and make decisions in the best interests of our users and the company based on that. I also am a cybersecurity instructor with a company called Learning Tree. I just finished that certification, so I'm starting to teach now, which is a really cool experience. And let's see, book you're currently reading. The book I'm currently reading is called Made to Stick. It's a book about why some other ideas survive and others die, which I found to be really interesting, especially in this space, because a lot of times I'm trying to make people care about something, whether they understand it or not. So it's been something that's helped me both personally and then also at work. And so that's about me. Thank you.
That's awesome. Congrats on moving into instructing. I know that's I've been doing it for a little bit of time, and the first year it's hella frustrating. So it's okay to get nervous. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm nervous, man.
Yeah, I wish someone had told me that, because I was in a class, and the second day. This was about 3 years ago when I started my company, but the second day there was some dude in there challenging me, and it was super awkward because he was dropping a lot of pen testing knowledge. I'm more on the cyber defense side, but he was dropping a lot of pen testing questions, and I know a bit on the offensive side because I used to be into it when I was a kid, but he caught me in a gap moment, so I was I'm not sure if he's trying to embarrass me.
Yeah.
It's this is a weird situation. And then I got to the point I decided he was trying to embarrass me. So then, it was pretty much no holds bars after that. So
I was gonna say they probably were, for some reason. Pen testers have this ego thing about them, and it feels what qualifies you to speak? And yeah, I don't want to get
which was weird. I was I was writing exploits, and I was don't worry about me, I'm good.
Well, in presentations, that happens all the time, and I always say, "Can we continue this conversation at the end, and so I can move on?"
Yeah, no,
that's how I handle it.
That's so much
nicer. Happy to talk
that's,
with you after this. But
that's so much nicer than me, because I'm usually no, then shut. It's been a rough week for me. I'm sorry.
I feel I should probably share it too. So I know, Sienna, I don't know if you had a book, but for some reason we forgot to actually provide an answer. So right now I'm reading a book called Moonwalking with Einstein. It's a book written by former world memory champions. So basically how to increase your areas photogenic memory, which is the ability to kind of remember objects you see, not necessarily words that are stated or what you read, but also other areas of like memory. So I think that's been like, I can honestly say it has been immensely helpful. Like there's a lot more, it sounds nerdy, but there's a lot more commands that I remember, like longer strings of commands that usually I have to like look, copy paste. Like I'm like remembering them now, and they're not like short syntaxes. So I can promise that if you buy it, it's called Moonwalking with Einstein. It and also a lot of the world memory champions are giving you techniques that they use. So I promise it actually does work. If you're looking to like increase your bandwidth from a memory perspective. Were you saying something, Sienna?
No, I was just thinking, I was like, my memory sucks. I really need to pick up this book.
Man, right?
I'm just saying, like, I use my notes because it helps when I'm doing engagements or any assessments, but it's also like, because my memory sucks that much.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, let me just do this. But it helps tremendously. I need to, there's so many books I need to pick up.
Well, I've been dealing with VCs the last like 2 months. So like you have to be like on point when you're talking to them. It's like when you're trying to raise money. So like you have to like be able to recall like quickly. So let's kick things off. So I know one of the first questions that we had, I want to say this is subjective, but I have a feeling this may go in the opposite direction because this crowd is like very diverse, which is awesome to see, by the way. It's always great to have a mixture of backgrounds and skill sets. So, you know, you don't want to be in the room with 1,000 pen testers, and you don't want to be in the room with 1,000 AppSec people, you know, so the jokes are all the same. That's what I say.
What if they're one and the same?
Seriously. But in your, and this is open to the floor, by the way, but what area of security, you know, in this current like time right now, you know, 2021, do you feel is possibly like one of the most important?
I will go first and say, what area of security, like the field itself?
Yeah, correct. So some people say one way more than the other. I'm not gonna throw my 2 cents in here. The room is for all of you wonderful people.
Yeah. It's kind of tough to say which one field is more important, because I think the cybersecurity field evolves in response to the risks that we encounter, either by research or through, you know, the exposures and the vulnerabilities that we encounter every now and then. So I will say this, that's one of the bedrock of the InfoSec field has to be GRC, risk. We need to be able to quantify our risk. We need to be able to understand what our risk appetite is, what the risk landscape looks like, and then be able to make business decisions based off of that. So that's my 2 cents.
No qualms from me on that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And I would probably piggyback off of that. Even though I'm a pen tester by trade and I am red team, I would say with that GRC comes better blue to purple team testing. Yes, the red team gets, you know, is the sexy field, but best offense is a strong defense. And if we can't quantify our risk, well, it's great to quantify our risk, but if we can't detect them, there's no, you know, then we're, you know, up creek without a paddle. And I said blue to purple because I'm really starting to like the idea of doing the purple teaming, you know, steel sharpens steel. You know, it makes red teams better, it makes blue teams better. And if we can, you know, integrate that and get the egos of red versus blue, you know, away and just look at it as purple teaming with a common goal of making the whole organization better, the company wins, right? But you know, nobody wins when the family feuds. You know, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, because we're all on the same side regardless, right? So I definitely agree with that.
In theory. I would say that for me, again, I look at data protection from a different point of view. I would say it's the unnecessary accumulation of data. Because if you don't have data, you don't have to protect it. You know, you don't have to worry about this, and you just see this unnecessary accumulation. And why that's important is because, especially in the human services and the health area, is there are a lot of people who want to monetize information. And it really is, in the area they're seeking are these marginalized populations and vulnerable populations, because they have very interesting data. I was recently informed from the FBI that a health record is worth $500, a complete health record. That surprised me. I didn't realize, and I try to keep up to date on this, is health records worth $500 in the dark web at this point. It was a webinar on Wednesday where this came out, so relatively, and it was discussing the SolarWinds attack. So it was piggybacking on that and the danger, because in the health area, health information is very valuable, and where people are now looking at are attacking our community. And so that's where, what do we need to really collect and why, that minimally necessary?
Yeah, I wrote about 4 years ago, possibly 5 years ago maybe, but I wrote an article essentially on that point around, I think it's literally labeled of the data, of the value of health data over credit card data, because you can flip health data multiple times over. So if you think about what information you would gain from a healthcare company or a hospital, not only is it name, you can get social, you can get address. These are things that are much more difficult to turn around and change. A credit card, you can swap a credit card out. You can call Bank of America and request a new one or open some type of fraud charge. But also one of the key areas, at least that I found when I was doing a lot more, also some work for the government, was individuals that were obtaining healthcare records to commit fraudulent Medicare claims and then fraudulent medication claims. So like if you have someone that is elderly, for instance, our country has a massive like Oxycontin problem. So obtaining information on what someone's medication is, and then creating a fake ID to go pick up those scripts from the from a pharmacy is child's play. Like it's ridiculously easy to get a fake ID, and if you have fake ID with name and name, address, and then you also have the ability to couple that with social security numbers. You can run wild with something, like criminals run wild with that. But a lot of the drugs that are out there on the dark market that are pharmaceutical grade, that's mostly from fraudulent claims. It's not like these drugs fell off the back of a truck. They're creating like fraudulent claims from popping really healthcare centers that have like really bad, I don't want to say bad security, because most of this is dependent on the budget. So they just don't have the budget to kind of fight back against, someone that's really, that's dedicated and mission focused on getting in there. So but I agree with what you said. Yeah. Because I remember like 4 years ago when I was writing this up, it was just like really interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think the crazy thing is usually people who don't really look at it from a standpoint of, I can reuse medical data over and over again. You would think it's credit card data originally, because it's like, I can steal the credit card data. But I think I saw something the other day, and I think credit card data on the dark web is only worth like $8. $8 card or something like that. And it was like, I know the medical data would be worth more, but I definitely didn't expect credit card data to only be $8.
Yeah, credit card data the value shrinks over, I think it's over every week. There's a couple forums that I still check out, but you can like legit, you can set up alerts for new dumps essentially. But the longer I think it's like, every week that it's on there, it decreases in value, because the likelihood that they're going to report it stolen or that the credit line is going to be frozen increases. So you have about a week to get that dump of data and then actually make use of it. So not that we're telling anyone what to do. I'm just saying this is just the real. It's just the real world. Like this is the way it goes.
Sorry, I wanted to comment on the important area of cybersecurity, because I think I'm probably opposite of everyone. Even though I'm on the GRC side, I'm going to pick two areas that are important, that are up and coming. That's cyber psychology and cybercrime. And with cyber psychology, it's a completely new field over here in the United States, but over in like the UK, it's booming. But essentially, it's really studying the behavior of someone and how they react to technology And I went to Norfolk for a little bit. I didn't stay in the program because I didn't want another master's, but my time there, I wrote an article back in my original master's program back in 2019. I wrote a paper on cyber criminal profiling because it doesn't exist to me. So I wrote a paper on that because I wanted to understand the behavior of someone who commits a cybercrime. So studying the mind of a hacker, or studying the mind of someone who's like tinker with stuff. And I think that plays into a factor that a lot of people don't realize. And then once I looked at cyber psychology, I'm like, oh, these two go hand in hand because, I mean, cybercrime happens every day. I mean, think about, when we were teenagers and we're downloading illegal music or something like that. Like we're committing a cybercrime every single day in our daily life, and people don't know. And I found that that's like my specialty. Like I wish to go out there and write another paper on that, but I think that's an important area that a lot of companies don't put a focus on, like, which is why I got the computer hacking forensic investigator certification to begin with, because I don't think a lot of people put emphasis on cybercrime, like more so like banks or credit card companies. They have like cybercrime type of departments, but cybercrime and cyber psychology are extremely important because, I mean, even to understand what type of risk, you have to understand like the mind of why we're thinking it. How are we reacting to technology and how it evolves every day? I mean, I look at like someone like my grandfather. He doesn't know what an autonomous vehicle is, so how is he gonna be used to that? How is he gonna protect himself if he has that? So I would say that's like what I think is important, but I always get a lot of pushback on that, but I like getting pushback because we all have our own opinion, and I think that it's up and coming, and we should just get ready because this is like the next field.
Zero pushbacks from me. Like that's a very interesting thing you brought up, because you also have these things like there are many respected social engineers in the field. However, they do not get the credit they deserve because there's that whole thing of it's just not technical enough, or if you're not a keyboard warrior, then what are you really doing in cybersecurity? Which is very wrong. There's a lot of fields where psychology has some significance. So long as you're dealing with a human element some way or another, psychology is going to play a huge part there. So that's a very valid field. No pushbacks from me at all.
Thank you.
Something that you both are touching on, which is the human element, right? And so when we were discussing that, when we came up with this question before, I had initially thought, and I go back and forth between whether it's the policies and procedures that need to be in place, or the education and awareness that needs to be brought to people's attention. Because if you're not educated or you're aware, you're up to speed, you don't know any of these things are going on. You don't know where your attention you should be facing, or where you should be focusing, right, and prioritizing. And which transitions me into the next question. In regards to education and awareness, a few of you in your introduction, you all mentioned some ways that you give back. So I want to open up the floor into how are ways that you give back to the InfoSec community as a whole, or into any communities that y'all are a part of, right? One way that I do is was one of my first times was participating in the Cyber Jitsu Con, doing a workshop and teaching any of the technical skills that I've learned to get into the field. I think that it's great at any level, no matter what, which I think is a phenomenal thing that you're doing, Kalila, is that no matter where you are in the field, however, no matter the amount of years you've been or lack thereof, there's always a way for you to give back, and there's always some sort of value that you can provide to somebody else who has not jumped in. And also in that same regard, there's always people that are in the field for, like, because I know people have paid it forward with me. So being able to, that people that have been in the field for as long as I have, like O'Shea, like Davin, and like a few other folks that I know and mentors of mine, they've given back to me, or they've given back and I've benefited from, and therefore I do the same and pay it forward.
Well, that kind of brings me to a good point. Within the Tech Sec Chicks, like I want to say about 2 months ago, I was gifted the Security Plus exam from Kirsten Bragger, and she also gifted me the Daryl Gibson's Security Plus study book. So using that, I passed the Security Plus. What I wanted to do, which, it kind of just starts like having good culture, good morale within the group. And so what I did was, the next chick that was studying for the Sec Plus, I mailed her the book. I signed my name in it, the date that I passed, and I mailed her the book. She just passed like a week ago. So now she's shipped it off to the next chick. And so we're just creating a nice culture, just a nice rapport within the group. And it gives everybody to feel a part of the group, feel like they are part of something special, something bigger than themselves. And then to kind of reiterate on that, one of the things that I want to do going forward, I'm about to be relocating to Georgia in the next couple of months. So I really want to kind of get things together. Davin, like, come on. But I really but I really want to get things together and start visiting like maybe middle schools and high schools. I remember just thinking like, what if I would have saw in middle school a Black woman like me working in the tech industry, making a name for themselves, and they had walked into my school. I probably would have went a totally different way very early on in life. A lot of times, because we don't see women that look like us when we're younger ladies, we don't even know that this stuff exists. We don't even know these careers are out here for us, and we can be a part of that. So I want to be able to give back in that manner as well. I want these young ladies to see me and see some of the Tech Sec chicks and go, wow, these women, like, they same skin color as me. They went through the same struggles as me, dealing with just being a woman, and not just a woman, a Black woman. It is definitely a lot of struggles that come along with that. And so I want to be able to talk to these young ladies and kind of mentor them. And if they are thinking about getting in tech, just being that support system for them, like really being there. Because a lot of times, like I say, people don't understand the tech aspect of our lives like we do. So that's kind of where I'm moving things.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. I want to piggyback off.
The one thing you said that makes me kind of like think about something. I think we had this discussion towards the end of the last call. Was really like, for the more people that are interested in, especially like community volunteering and reaching out to more individuals. I always recommend, at least fairly strongly, is like look at some of the groups that are out there that are at least operating in those areas, right? So from a high school perspective, I know ICMCP is doing something with high school students. You have Cyber Patriot, ICMCP more focused on people of color. You have VIC that's out there. You have Black Cyber Association. I think Mary Chaney has a group. Crap, I can't remember Mary. Sorry, Mary, I can't remember the name of the group right now. Don't be mad at me. But because I'd love to hear like more individuals that are looking to really get into more outreach from a cybersecurity perspective. And the one thing I kind of always like to just throw out there is like, look at the groups that are already kind of like throwing money and dedicating themselves towards that. Because a lot of times what I hear, but not here, but like when I interact with like younger individuals or people that are kind of newer to the field, they're like, hey, I'm going to go off and do this random thing. I'm like, hey, there's a group that's funded that could like definitely use help for volunteering. Like I was like, reach out. Look at the Larry Whitesides, look at the Devin Bryants, look at those guys that have been like, I've been doing this for 12 years. I just turned 37. They've been doing it for damn near 20, like 20, 25 years. They have like a wealth of experience, and they're looking for people to come in and help out and with some of the initiatives that they have. And most importantly, not most importantly, but really importantly, they're funded. Like, so they already have the money that they can use. They just need the bodies to go out and help. So I just throw that out there, because the more I hear people that and I think that's awesome. Like I started volunteering a while back, but the more I hear about that, I'm like, hey, there's somebody that can use your help like right now. Like they're looking for people to come out and help. So, and if anybody needs like an introduction to any of those groups, like definitely let me know because I'm on the board with like Sands Blue Team Summit, Boston B-Sides Group, Boston Security Meetup, BIC, ISSA. Like I'm on like 4 or 5 different boards. So I'm always like, hey, if you want to do something, give me a shot. I can probably connect you with someone that's looking for your help.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what Kiki said about being a Black woman in this field and not having the support. That's actually how I left my first job because the cybersecurity department was 2 people. I started my internship there. I had worked for the company as a teacher for like a year and a half, and then I got moved to corporate for the cybersecurity internship, and I worked for a woman who's Caucasian, and we could not get along, and it got to the point where I was depressed. She just wasn't motivating. Like she thought because of the color of my skin that I didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't belong in the field, and she was just stuck in like the 90s where a lot of us were not seen in this field. And it just got to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't stay here. So like she really discouraged me, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have anyone to look towards. And I was thankful for her pushing me because I went to a conference and I met my mentor. And my mentor was in the Army for 20 years, been in the cybersecurity field for that long. And she's on the awareness side, but she is awesome. And I'm like, I want to be able to give everybody that support, which is why I created Read the Cyber Boss. And it's just a way because I experience people who are technical who talk down on people who are non-technical. And I think that that's rude because you don't know my skill set. And I want to get a technical side, but you pushing away from me because I'm not technical is not cool. And I've experienced that a lot, which is why I'm like, okay, I'm going to start my own thing. And you can read my blog. Everybody can read my blog. And I'm really good on social media. I make a lot of reels. I make a lot of funny stuff. So people can say, oh, okay, I get it. Like, because people are intimidated by cybersecurity. But, I want my blog to be nationwide one day because I speak to elementary kids. I speak to middle school, high school. I'm in a sorority. So I'm thankful that my name is passed through everywhere. But I think I agree with Kiki, if I would have saw somebody in this field when I was in, 3rd grade, I could have been like, oh, this is what I want to do because it's just such a flexible field and it's just ever changing. But I really want to like educate and just awareness. And so far, I think the biggest accomplishment I've ever done for those who I wasn't into football, but I spoke for the Jerome Bettis Foundation, and I think that was probably the best thing that I ever did. All of these kids from all around the world, and they're like, oh, I had no idea. And it makes people feel good when you see someone who looks like you, who works in the field, and they can, and I'm always honest about my journey. I don't sugarcoat anything. So I'm probably I'm going to be joining Tech Sec Chicks.
Yeah, you know what? I really want to give you like a long distance cyber hug right now. Definitely. But yeah, oh my God, you touched on a good point, and this is one point that I talk to my girls about. I talk to just people in general. Those soft skills that I bring or anybody else brings from these non-technical jobs, that is what's going to set you apart. It's going to change the game for you because knowing how to effectively communicate with people and work well within a team is something that cannot be taught all the time. You can teach the tech, but you cannot teach these soft skills to some of these people. And people really don't understand how important that is in our industry. We got so many rude people. We got the bro code. We got, it's just so many different aspects that can be so negative. And I feel like the workplace environment would be a lot more mellow, a lot more chill if you didn't have these people that feel like, oh, I'm here and you're here. Like, that doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't feel good to go to work every day and know that somebody looking down on you, not only just because you're not technical, but because you're Black and because you're a woman. Like, no, my pop-off game is crazy. I'm a work in progress. But I mean, it's just it just feels like a lot of weight on our shoulders, going to work every day and having to deal with that type of environment. And so it's just real important to have those people skills. It really is.
Well, and to your point, because one thing I want to add to it, and I mentioned it in my article, is the fact that I'm often, when it comes to technical conversations or other, routinely dismissed. And then I tell them, well, or I somehow say, I do have a master's from Stanford in engineering, and suddenly they listen to me, so I don't know what that says, but it's there, and it's unfortunately always there. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves is it's like I'm starting to talk and they're like, oh, pat me on the head. That's such a nice comment. And do you realize I'm from Stanford? And oh, okay. It is. It's a definite switch. And I don't know if I'm giving you some positive or negative to go forward with, but it's reality. And, I struggle with, how to deal with it positively or not. But it's out there, and it's going to continue to be out there. And that's why things like this are so important to say. We're not alone.
Yeah. And before we go on to the next question, did anyone else want to chime in on avenues or ways that they give back? I wanted to give everyone a chance to answer before. Davin, I know you got like 12, so.
Well, I'm being polite because I was about to go on a rant.
It's Friday.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been having a hell of a week. So, one of the things I came into 2021 with is, and this is let me put this out here now. This is no knock or disrespect to anybody who is a legitimate ally. However,
oh boy,
no. I'm saving that I'm gonna save that one for later. But the goal is to show that it can be done, and it can be us, and it has to be us. Reason being, I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I knew I was technically inclined, but didn't have the resources. And in a roundabout way, I was always told basically that I may not be smart enough, that this field is reserved for Caucasian, Southeast Asian, like Indian, and Asian. And it was always like, go do what you think you're good at, which is sports, music, or something illegal. And to Kalila and Ms. Spicer's point, representation matters. So in a time where all you see that really represent us are your super celebrities like a Beyonce or something like that, or your artists like your Cardi B's or your Megan Thee Stallions and stuff like that, who are hypersexualized, and nothing wrong with that. But to our children, especially young women who come up looking at their phones as, this is the model of what you need to be, or what you need to look like, or what you need to do, or maybe I need to sell flat tummy tea. No, knock on flat tummy teas. It's important to show an alternative. It's important to show, hey, I may not be, I may not have money like an NBA or an NFL player, but I do okay for myself, and I do it with this. I do it with my hands-on skills. So, again, this is why I said no disrespect to the allies, but it has to be like people here in this panel to go back to those communities and say, look, there's another option. And as professionals, it's on us to call out the BS of other people when we see it, right? Because there is trash. Right now, the market is trash. The corporate world is trash. There are your gatekeepers who feel like you need to justify your existence every single day you go to work. Okay, I write a blog, and every time I put out a blog or I put out a YouTube video or something, there's always at least one question of someone asking me, what makes me qualified to speak on this subject? And I can say, well, pick one of my certifications or kick rocks, depending on how I feel that day. But I shouldn't even have to answer that, because what makes me qualified is what makes me qualified. And to be real, what makes you qualified is that you probably have a family member in a high spot of the company that you work for, where we bust our asses and you're a mediocre Mac. Like, let's just call it for what it is. So the job field is garbage because, like I said, either you're underpaid, or if you are paid well, they try to use that against you. Like, oh, well, because you get paid this, you should go above and beyond. You should, even though we know it's salary, but you should work more than your average 8 to 9 or 10 hours. You know, you should be sleeping this because we pay you so much money that this should be your life. And it's like, no, we can't let this, we got to break that. And like I said, it has to be us. Allies can do a lot for us, can open a lot of doors for us, and can shed a lot of light on things. But it has to be us to take a stand and say, enough is enough. Because if this world isn't in a better situation, when my kids decide they want to move up into the field, then I failed them as a father. So like I said, it has to be. And with that, like I said, I'm trying to behave myself. So I'm going to shut the hell up now, and we can move to the next person.
But take your time, Pat. Take your time, Pastor.
Well, we do need to go to take a time to the next question. If you feel like when the next answer can layered onto the next question, then all the better. Yeah, thank you. I was like, that's much more tempered than he usually is.
Things needed to be said.
No, I appreciate that. So one of the questions that we definitely wanted to get out there was, I know a couple people mentioned that they're new to the field. I know a couple people probably have been in this for some time. But what is I want to say the top advice you would give someone, but I'm going to rephrase this now. After some of the conversations here, I'm going to ask a different way. What is the advice that you would give to someone who's moving into the field from both a technical and non-technical manner, right? So one part I'll answer is from a non-technical side, because this is something that I see that I tend not to speak too heavy on, because there's no way to really like enumerate on this particular topic without, you'd have to use someone's name. But what I tell people that are fairly new to the field is two things. One, focus on the skill for the area you're looking to go into. So focus on understanding what skill set you need. I say that as, again, I've been doing this like 12 years. I've literally only had 2 certifications, like ever. And one was taken as like a joke. Like I took the CEH and I was like 18 as like a bet. And I'm not like even kidding. Like it was me and my buddies like joking around the summer before we went off to college. And we basically said whoever took it and passed without like looking at the material gets like $200 from each one of us. And there was like 5 of us. So that's like basically like $800 in the summer when you're like 17, about to be 18. $800 in Dallas goes a long way. So like I literally went and took the CEH at like Collin County Community College like 2 days later, and then like passed it. So and it's not to say like whatever. I'm just saying like if you don't fall too deep into what other people are telling you have to do in order for you to be successful is what I'm going towards. And the second part of that is ensure that the person you're taking advice from is either in the field from a perspective of like they can help you, or you know of someone else that they've helped. Because I'm seeing people that come to me either in DMs on LinkedIn or Twitter, or I run into at conferences, and they'll say, well, you know, so-and-so, not gonna drop names, but so-and-so said I need to do this in order to move into this role. And my response is like, is so-and-so in that role? Can so-and-so hire you? Can so-and-so give you a reference? Can they give you a referral? Then you probably shouldn't listen to so-and-so, right? And that's not to like darken or dampen on anybody's mood, but I'm a big proponent of, you know, if you're gonna give me advice, you know, you need to be probably up here, right? In my mind, this is just O'Shea's mind, not to say I'm right or wrong, or, you know, this is the supreme answer, but I feel there's a lot of this going around, particularly in our community, where there's a lot of advice being thrown out by people who necessarily aren't in those roles and never have operated in those roles. So that's all I'm gonna say.
So I want to kind of touch on that because, I mean, one of my big things for advice for people coming in, especially being somebody new, is, you know, go out there and build your network, find the people who are in those roles that you want to do, sit down, ask for mentorships. Don't be scared to actually go up to somebody. I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to somebody randomly on Twitter and it's just like, don't want to waste your time, but I got lots of questions. And if you got time, I want to make that time to sit down and talk to you. Another thing is,
That's awesome. Good.
Yeah. And I think too, because I originally had a mentor when I was looking into, you know, cybersecurity and really getting into the field, and she was a pen tester. And I knew that was absolutely not even close to what I wanted to do. Not a red team, like just not my thing. But she gave me good key advice, which was go seek out a community of individuals in roles you want to be and build your network. Another big thing she told me was like, if you want to get into this, people have to know you. They have to hear your voice. Contribute to that community. Don't go looking for someone to come and assist you and you haven't offered anything else to that community. You know, so a big thing for me was to help build that community that I was looking for. I couldn't find it, so I built it. And that was, you know, part of me joining, you know, the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu, and building a community in Dallas where I couldn't find one. There wasn't here. And if they were, you know, the communities were in different states that I didn't have access to. You know, thankfully, COVID did me a favor because now I could jump into all these remote sessions and these workshops that normally I didn't have access to. And I mean, I'm originally from Oklahoma. So I came from a very barren area of not only just tech, but security. And let's not even get started on women in security or Black women in security. It doesn't exist. Not at all. And I mean, for me, like I think we were talking about representation too. I didn't have anybody that I could go to who looked like me, had my background, and I'm Afro-Latina. You know, there ain't no one that I could find in my background, you know, or from where I'm from. So I started to build that community. So that's my biggest advice. Ask for help, seek that help. But also make sure that you're seeking help from those that can help you. Don't just go you know, if you want to go into risk management, don't go bother a pen tester. You know who you're asking, and find the people that can be your support group. And I've been very lucky because I've been able to develop an amazing set of mentors and support group that, you know, have helped me get over fears that I've had with coming into security. You know, like for me, I was even terrified to take on a security engineer role because I have had such a kickback from trying to get in to the technical space, because I think I sit somewhere between being very technical and not so technical. I mean, I have a business background. I was in accounting before I switched over to tech, you know, and so coming in, I didn't have that technical background. And so
just having people that could support me and help me identify those skills that I was good at and help me cultivate those skills was important. So again, my only advice is, build that network and contribute to your community, give back, and help support those coming up behind you.
Yeah, that's really important. Thank you for sharing that, Mckenna. And I guess what I would offer in relation to that is, once I got into like the field of cybersecurity, the part that I was then trying to navigate is like, okay, now that I'm here, like where exactly, like how do I kind of navigate like moving up? Because I mean, I am very like aspirational and ambitious. Like, okay, well, what's next? And the one piece of advice that I would give is like focus on your superpowers and like really let that kind of guide where you want to go and what you like. One of my mentors who I still look up to, he was like, look, if you learn how to code, I can help you make a lot of money. Right? And I was like, oh, I want to make a lot of money. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. And I promise you, like, I bought courses. I spent a good 3 months, like, trying to teach myself, like, Python, all the code academy, like that. But my brain was like, it ain't for you, dog. Like, it's not for you. But, like, one thing that I do really well is, like, I can talk my ass off. I apologize. I don't even know if I can say ass, but, like, I talk, like, I present. Like, outside of work, I do stand-up comedy. I DJ. Like, that's my space. And so that's what I'm going to try and drive for. Because if it's like a football team, like, not everybody can run the ball. Not everyone needs to be a receiver. Some people got to block. Some people got to do this. So when it comes to like the field of security, I found that I'm really good at being able to work with people, be able to translate technical information, synthesize it, and really help make these ideas stick in a way that people want to engage with it. Like, I make boring things fun, essentially. And that's what I found to be my niche and what I just continue to drive in on. And I would say everyone has their own superpower, and just because yours is different from someone else doesn't change your path too much. It just means that you have to find your own path. And that's why I think what Mckenna says, finding mentors and people that may have done that before, really help us out a lot. So that's my number one advice.
Thank you, Sue.
I think that's great about the superpower, and I do want to ask that in a second, but I do think another thing is that I like giving as advice. I mean, similar to a few of you, I've only been in the field for I think 3 years now, but I was a career transitioner, or I consider it a career transitioner because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was working in hospitality a ton, bartending and working in a theme park and whatnot. But something that Kalila had mentioned earlier is using those soft skills. That comes into play so much in cybersecurity and in our field, and that EQ, the EI, the emotional intelligence, that helps out tremendously. And I think when coming into cybersecurity, one of those things is really leaning into that, and not only thinking that you can you have to be tech savvy, like 100% a keyboard warrior, that you will have to interface with other humans at some point. I know when I came into cybersecurity, I was like, great, I don't have to deal with customers. Lies. Still deal with customers, they just have a different face. So they have different things, different expectations. You will still have to do customer service. I still I say to my team a lot that even when I'm writing emails, you're building relationships when you're communicating, when you're even if you're doing a report readout and you're explaining to this team that they need to fix something, being able to word it in such a way that doesn't look like tisk tisk, you're doing a bad thing, but being able to show the compassion, the understanding of how much work that takes to go ahead and remediate, and the things that are valuable to them, because it might be a budget constraint, or it might be some other things that are in play that are not priority for them, but that human element and I call it hospitality, the empathy. Yes, exactly, Ozzy. It is so important. And so bringing that into technology and carrying that over from your previous experience and whatever skills you have from your previous experience, it will somehow apply in cybersecurity. There's a place for it, for sure. But that is one of my pieces of advice. I want to go ahead and popcorn to whoever has any other advice that they want to share before we go on to any other topic.
Well, I will talk again. What I recommend to young people, students, I actually dissuade them from taking coding. I say go into drama, go into speech, into art, because what they're finding when it comes to technical, you can get that later on. It's actually the ability to express yourself and think creatively that's really more important. We lack creativity, and that's what is often necessary. And so it seems to be a contradiction in some way, but that's what I encourage, is actually going, when you're young, grade school, high school, use that time to go into those soft areas. You can pick up technology later on. I think it's much harder to do the reverse. But that's going to your point about those soft skills.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think one question, since we did mention the idea, not the idea, I'm sorry, the concept of reaching out, I think what I'd like to just quickly ask is that, I'm going to ask everyone here to drop their handles or their social media contact information, but is everyone here cool with someone reaching out to them afterwards? Just want to be, okay, cool. Just want to be 100% sure, because it would feel hypocritical for us to say, it would feel very hypocritical for us to say, yeah, you should definitely reach out to them, and then we're like, yeah, never mind.
Like, no, bye.
Yeah. But Steven said something that's that I think it's crazy important, because there is this idea that you have to code in order to be in security, and I code a bit, but I was one of those weird lucky people. I was going to school in Dallas, Texas, and we had year-round school, and we had a computer science class in 6th grade. So in 6th grade, we actually were learning how to make games, and that's where it kicked off for me, because that seemed near I'm showing my age or whatever, but the same year where I was taking that class in 6th grade, Hackers came out. So I saw Hackers around the same time I was actually doing that class, and that's what, being 13, that blew my mind, and that's what changed everything. But I've led multiple teams, I've built out a few different SOCs, been in a lot of management positions, and some of the best people I've worked with can't write, hello world to save their life, right? I know a lot of people that are crazy solid forensic investigators. I mean, beasts, are over at one time, some of the guys I worked with at DOD and NSA, they were great forensic practitioners. Most of them could not code, right? They could not code a lick, but you give them the tools they need, they can sniff out, malware on a box and start dumping artifacts within 20, 30 minutes, but they have a very solid career and they don't code a lot. I've hired people specifically in analyst positions and in engineering positions as I was leading teams, and some of the people did not code either, and they were super solid at their job. So if that's one thing, we can get out to, the viewers of this, is you don't need to be the best coder in the world in order to get into security. In some of the roles, you really don't need to code at all. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I think it's a very valuable skill to have, for sure. It can save you a lot of time with tedious work, especially if you're an analyst. If you're a junior analyst and you have to, and one of your primary responsibilities is, I know people have, roll their eyes when they hear eyes on glass or eyes on screen, but, the eyes on glass roles, I think, are pivotal to you getting that thick skin and beginning to really develop that intuition of, this is something bad, this is what I need to dive into, this is something I don't need to worry about, this is something I do need to worry about. In those roles, those junior SOC roles, I think it's kind of pivotal to take those. But if you can code, it can save you a lot of time when you're on shift and you have to review loads and loads of alerts, or you have to write customization engines, or you have to write out custom SIGs or detection capabilities. So, but Stephen, when you mentioned that, I was like, yes, because nobody says that. There's a lot of, you need to know Python, and if you are going to learn to code, don't start with Python. There's Go, there's Ruby. There's a lot more things that have more practical uses, I think, than Python. So I know I'm probably going to get some crazy stuff on Twitter about that, but whatever.
I was just about to say, because I always hear how Python is the one go-to. I know I've been trying to really get a handle on my Python coding skills. I have a couple books back there that I need to revisit. But
a lot of the tools you like are written in Ruby. Like,
oh yeah,
everybody loves Metasploit's written in Ruby.
It's in Ruby. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's super simple. The reason why so many people contribute to Metasploit to those modules is because it's written in Ruby, and it's, I mean, and not to say it's easy to write those modules, but it's not, an impossible task. So, like, I mean, do what you like, of course. I support most people in any method when they're getting their skills, but you don't need to. I don't know how Python became the de facto language, but we're getting off topic. So,
well, I'll go ahead and pose the next question. And this really could be anywhere. So what keeps you most interested in cybersecurity? What keeps you going in here? Last time, and I'll go ahead and lob this out just to give you a few moments to think of what keeps you interested in cybersecurity. Last time we talked about this, I said educating. Now, after thinking about that, and that was more of like the soft skill side of it. I do enjoy educating others. I enjoy the education that I get from cybersecurity because there's so much to learn, and I like paying it forward and being able to show others whether how to get in technically or how to get in through soft skills and through your network and using that that tool in your pocket. But I'm going to go with it more of a technical side is actually the hacking connected cars. When I started testing or studying for the OSWP, which is Offensive Security Wireless Professional, so for cracking Wi-Fi, I got to dive into that and started looking into antennas, which I bought a very large Canon that I don't get to use all the time, but I have it for when I want to play around and look at what other Wi-Fi ranges are around here, about a mile or two away from my house. But which got me into signaling different types of signals and IoT. And so then I actually even got the book, which is Hacking Connected Cars by Alyssa, which is one of my technical guilty pleasures because I try to keep most of my books or things that I'm reading. Yes, it's so good. She does like a video series, a streaming series where she started going through. I think she started it on the Hacker Book Club that Chloe Misagni and Cassie and I believe her name is Amanda. I haven't gone in a bit, but she had done where she stopped by and she talked about a few chapters of her book, and then they go over a bunch of book clubs. I definitely recommend a bunch of different books. Definitely recommend checking out that book club for sure. We did Cult of the Dead Cow, and members of the CDC came and joined us and talked about some of the stories that was in the book. Anyways, getting away from the Hacking Connected Cars, but the Hacking Connected Cars, she does a series, Alyssa Knight, and she went through, and it's on YouTube still, how she just going chapter through chapter of it. But I have to give myself only a little bit at a time because, like I said, it's not something I get to play with all the time, really, that much. But that's what keeps me going. It's all these interesting new technologies and the ways to really, get the information. Something that is, I'll mention this later, but anyways, I enjoy snooping. So I like snooping around, and if I can, whatever I could get into, I'm about it. So legally, of course. Anyways, I'm gonna lob this to what are y'all's interests? I see Ozzy, your mic is off. Or it's on.
It's similar to what you said. There's one word for it: rabbit holes. It's from when I was a kid, I had this propensity to poke my nose in where I had no business being. So at the age of 8-ish, I kind of had an idea what the internal of the reproductive system of the male and the female looked like. I was looking at an anatomy textbook. Yes. So luckily for me, I took that into computers and all of that stuff. So sometimes I'm just bored and I don't have anything doing, then I take an old device, I just open it up and whatever. So there was this one weekend where I was playing, there's this mobile game I play on my phone. I spent a lot of money on it and I wasn't getting what I wanted. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, they've got to be using APIs. Let me check that out. And so I got a Pixel 2. I routed the phone, installed the app, began to inspect the traffic, to see what tokens I could potentially manipulate and get myself more money. Luckily for them, they were using Google Security Library. So you'd have to somehow get into Google's code base and access their APIs and all of that stuff. So that was where it kind of stopped for me. But I just love the fact that for someone who is, if you're that person that likes poking your nose everywhere, if you're curious and whatever, there's literally so many things you can poke your nose into, and you can just keep going and going and going and going. Just be sure that you have a friend at the top, holding to the end of that string so you don't get lost down that rabbit hole. That's
like pull you out of trouble. Come back.
Come on, get back. Yeah, stay on track. So that's what keeps me going. And in addition to that, it's also, based on my experience trying to get into the field, the fact that it was just needlessly difficult, I also reach out to people. It's my way of giving back anyway. Like, I always reach out to people. And, when someone puts out an SOS saying, I've been applying for jobs, I don't know what I'm doing, I need help, I always reach out to them, provide whatever help I can. Sometimes I take time throughout the day to look at, okay, this is this person's area of interest. How about I look for jobs that fits this person's area of interest and tell them, okay, this is what you need to be looking for and all of that stuff. Just because I know it gets hard. And I was in that situation before. I didn't even know what field I wanted to get in. All I knew was that I wanted to be in that field. I wanted to, bang on all the things. I wanted to hack all the things. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So for me, it's like, if I in that position, it would have helped if there was someone in the field who reached out to me and kind of told me this is what you needed to do, kind of guided me through the whole thing. So that's my own way of like, hey, I'm in the field, I can help you. What do you want to know? So yeah, those are the things that keep me going.
I would say for me, I think what keeps me going is there's so much that, like I said earlier, cybersecurity is just it just keeps growing. Like, we see new stuff every day, but I think what keeps me going is that people, because they see that I show my non-technical side so much, they don't know what I can do. So I think that motivates me, because like, even at work, people that in my business unit, they're like, oh, you only know how to do this work. And I work with a lot of men who are like engineers and software developers and executives and all of these different people. And then like our cybersecurity side, everybody's like, oh, you know how to do so much. And it's like I almost think of me like a secret threat. Like, I almost think of me like, you don't know what I can do. I'm a fast learner. And I think that motivates me, because people are like, oh, you can't do this. And I'm like, I can, and I will. It's just, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about getting into the field. I didn't want to immediately be technical. Like, when I took my cyber defense operation class, I hated it. I hated the book. I hated the class. I ended up passing, but it wasn't my interest. I am more of a social engineer type of person. Like, I had an entire class on it. So I'm that type of person. I want to be well-rounded, but I like when people say, oh, you can't do this, or you're not going to do this. I'm like, okay, so that just like keeps me motivated. And even though right now I work for a bank, this is my advice just in general that can keep you going. If you work for a bank, you can work anywhere in cybersecurity. I think that is the toughest place to work, because we have the regulators on us. Like, there's somebody always watching you. So I think if you can work there, you can work anywhere. And I didn't believe that, because I'm like, oh, I hate this bank. Like, I don't want to work here. And as I've been here, I said, oh, wait, this like keeps me going, because the bank challenges you. There's a lot of things you can do and a lot of things you can't do. And then like for the solar winds, I thought it was funny, because I told the solar winds guys, like, hey, you guys have vulnerabilities that are like past due, they're not compliant. Like, what if somebody hacks into our system? And then the next day, solar winds got hacked into. So I'm like, well, see, this is why, you should listen. But I think that's what really keeps me going. And I think one day I'll probably work for I see myself working for like a big clothing company or like a social media type of company, because that's just I feel like that's the social media is the easiest way to get somebody to like, you can mirror someone's page. It's just so easy to catch people up on social media. So I think one day, like, I'll want to like do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. To both their points, I think you have to actually have a certain level of crazy to be in this field. I don't know about y'all, so I don't want to speak on anybody else, but it's almost like this itch in the back of your head that's always whispering, how does that work? Why does that work? I wonder, is that talking to something else? And it's that challenge. It's that challenge of wanting to know what it is, why it works, what happens if I do something else to it. And yeah, it's a hard switch to turn off. Like I tell the story, like we went to Disney a couple of years ago, and they give you these armbands, and the armbands were interacting with different things throughout the park. And to back to Ozzy's part about having someone that can snatch you out, I'm blessed to have a wife who can literally see my brain moving as it's happening. So we're in the park, and I'm going, and she's like, "Stop! You're on vacation." Because immediately she sees, like, it's almost like I'm literally watching. I'm looking for the connections. Like, okay, so wait, how is that talking? There's got to be an API. What? How? And then immediately, it turns into, "Where's my laptop? I'll be right back." And so she's always there to just kind of be like, "Stop!" Like So yeah, you have to have someone that pulls you up. But I think that challenge is what keeps you going, right? Because again, no disrespect or any shade to any other part of tech, but in help desk can get boring. Like if I can literally tell you how to troubleshoot a situation and I don't have to look at the computer, it's not fun to me. So, and there's different things. And I mean, even just in pen testing, like I just moved into the AppSec space like a year and a half ago. And API pen testing is different than web app pen testing, which then led me to research stuff. And then I got introduced to the OWASP API top 10. And it gives you more opportunities. Like from learning that, then I was able to do a SANS talk on attacking APIs. So, it's an ever evolving field. And as long as you have that hunger for knowledge, you'll stay in it. And the moment, like I said, it's a place where you literally can't get complacent unless you want to.
Go ahead, Stephen. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think what I was going to say to build on that, you were saying like you kind of ask yourself these questions. For me, I think what interests me and keeps me going is I also ask myself the questions like, how do we get more people to, and I think Drew, maybe you said this, like from a behavioral way, kind of like engage more with this, because technology is everywhere. And Mara, you've talked about like people's data is just being captured, but not everyone has the same level of appetite to understand and take the necessary actions. But why is that? Right. And how can and this is again just me, but like how can I make this like more engaging or make this easier for people to like take to, when it's like my family and friends or like at a company. So that's something that I find interesting, because there's always something new, there's always a new challenge. Just making that like as easy as possible for just be like, oh, like this is what I should be doing, influencing behavior.
That's awesome. There was one question that I definitely wanted to get everyone. We'll try to get as many answers in as possible because I know we're coming up on time. But when you think about, really not only the future of security, because I think that's rapidly changing, it's changing as we sit here. I think a lot of the focus is going towards, honestly, API and cloud security. That's where API cloud and SecDevOps. That's where I'm betting money. That's where a lot of the majority of the threats are coming from that I see from a research perspective, and also just where money's being placed from a VC in the VC world in regards to solving those challenges. So wherever VC money's going, and that's essentially like a radar in regards to where you can expect more threats to come from. But when you think about the future of us in InfoSec, right? Like as people of color in InfoSec, what do you see as as an outcome of maybe 5 10, 15 years down the line. I know for myself, I think that, I know we've spoken about this, but in my mind, it really comes down to ownership of, I think, not to sound dark, but it's all kind of the DEI efforts, the ally stuff, all that's wonderful, but it's a moot point unless we are owning, parts of the industry on our own, right? Like it is not to say everyone's going to do this. I don't think that that's even, possible. And it's not to say that everyone has to, be a boss or whatever. Like, I don't see myself as whatever, like a boss. I see myself as a very overworked and stressed out person. but the reality is, as we have more of us that are moving into security, you think about that 3% number. That's 3% of this field is actually diverse talent. 3% is huge when you look at it from a BC perspective of people of color that are receiving investment or rounds of funding for their projects or for their company. It shrinks from like that 3 to almost like 1 and 2, right? I mean, I'm sorry, less than 2. But when I think about the future and to piggyback on the previous question, what really keeps me going is really the challenges, but also seeing us becoming those solidified creators and us being able to create roles for us. I think at the end of the day, the game winner or checkmate is when DEI and allies are an afterthought, and the primary mechanism you think about people of color, specifically Black people getting jobs, is that, hey, I know that, Davin's the CEO of this company. I know Shay's the CEO of this company. I'm going to go see if they're hiring. Oh, great. They have about 20 roles open. And I know that it's going to be a place that I'll feel more comfortable. There's going to be a lot of reputation in that company. Move towards that goal of starting companies to create problems, either self-services from a consultancy perspective, whatever it may be. I think that really is like, at least that's the future I want to see, and that's why I launched my thing. To say super late, not only get the consultancy side, and I will say for anybody that's looking to start a company, it is immensely stressful. You should go ahead and prepare yourself for not having a life. But I think that's where a lot of this is going. I love meeting younger individuals that are like 21 that are like, yeah, I'm starting a pen testing company, and they're dead serious. Like, they have the skills and they're going out and doing it. I love meeting people that are product focused, that are thinking, hey, I think it'd be awesome to have, this particular application available. I'm going to go make that. I truly love seeing that. And the more, like I said earlier, I've been dealing with VCs the last 2 months, and hearing stories of especially Black companies that are getting funded. That stuff is crazy inspiring to me. Like, I love what Backstage Capital is doing, what Arlen's doing over there. Like, I love watching that and reading those stories. I can listen to that stuff like all day. But when I think about the future, that's what I see. I see more Black-owned cybersecurity companies, and because in my mind, that's the rubber stamp, and that's what we this is just O'Shea's opinion. That's what the aim is, and that's what the goal is. But I'd love to hear from, of course, everybody else.
I think in the future, I would want to see cyber law. I feel my classmates were, they want to be cyber lawyers, and I think that should be. It kind of goes with cybercrime, because cyber law it doesn't really exist right now. But I mean, I think in the future that would be awesome, because it's something that is up and coming. I'm pretty sure someone years ago was saying, hey, I can't wait to see when a car drives itself. And now look, there's a autonomous car, and now, there's a cyber factor into it. So I'm hoping that, we can see, a type of law as cyber law, and we'll be able to connect with those people, and it'll just, provide more jobs, and it'll even provide more insight as to, what's going on, and we can, kind of see why people are doing this, what law are you breaking, and I think it would be good. So that's what I would want to see in the future. And I think it's coming. I think I don't know this cyber lawyer, but there's one person that stays near me, and he makes quite a bit of money. If he gets one case, he's done for the entire year. So I think that's awesome. He can do one case and he can, find out so much and defend so much. So I'm like, oh, well, we need that. I mean, it's just like, I think cybersecurity professionals, I say this all the time, and a lot of my other friends get mad who are not in this field. I think we are just as important as lawyers and doctors, because somebody is always going to be getting hacked. Somebody's always going to have something broken in their system. So I think we are just as important.
If someone is looking at that, I would say contact, like Mary Chaney. Like she is the cyber lawyer. She was with the FBI for like 20 years, focusing on cybersecurity and law. But you brought up, I don't know if that was like intentional, but what I think is going to be the entry and the crevice and like the crater that we really start thinking about cybersecurity law is going to be autonomous vehicles. We spoke about this on the last session. I know. See,
here comes that rabbit hole. We're going back.
But no, if you really think, truly think about this, in order for an autonomous vehicle to be on the road, that's going to have to be not only have approval from Department of Transportation in regards to what regulations are set. There's also going to have to be regulations set from like FINRA. There's going to have to be regulations set across the automotive industry in regards to who's responsible for updating those vulnerabilities for autonomous vehicles. Is it Tesla that is responsible for a vulnerability that exists that you chose not to update on their boards or some of their CPUs within the vehicle, right? Because you can choose not to accept the update on autonomous vehicles. So at the end of the day, is that something that your insurance company has to eat the charge if you get in a wreck because, let's say, the braking system fails because there's a vulnerability that's been exploited in your car, but that vulnerability actually has a patch that's available and you as a person chose not to push? Like, I think it's likely gonna be autonomous vehicles that push the conversation of not only cyber law, but the public policy aspect of cybersecurity to the forefront. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be an accident that's going to set this whole chain reaction off. But you mentioned it, and I couldn't help myself. But
and Mary Cheney's group is Minorities in Cyber, so
yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's what it was. But Marty, I saw that your mic came on.
Yeah, I was saying I already, in my position, I'm lucky enough to actually deal in cyber law, and I use that in broad. I've already dealt with immigrant status, minors. So that's already happening, data protection and sensitive information and groups. And one way to make you realize how important this is, I was a prosecutor, and one of the things that happened repeatedly was young Black men came up to me and were being prosecuted for having stuff over their rear view window. I dismissed those cases, but it just showed what happens in law enforcement. But the corollary to that is I tell young minorities, do not have facial or biometric on your phone. Do not use that. Use a PIN, because you have a right to remain silent for the PIN in your head. The police can put this phone up to your face or put your finger on that and open it up. We do not have the privilege of certain technologies because they can be used against us. And that's why I'm in this field, because I recognize technology is not neutral. Trying to be quick.
Wait, don't you need a warrant for that? If they try to use your fingerprint, don't they have? They can.
It's easy. They can do it. They'll find a way to do it. Let me put it that way.
But legally, look, I'm like dead serious, and I'm asking, like, wouldn't they need a warrant to access that as a piece of that? Is
you have a right to remain silent. You don't. I mean, what goes with the right not to put your finger on this thing? That's why law and technology is very important to the comments on what is cyber law. This is part of it, the criminal justice system.
Which makes sense, because a PIN is what you know, it's not what you are. So
exactly.
If you have the right to remain silent, then you have the right to withhold that what you know at that moment. Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
So I just want to say, going back to, where do I see us in the next 5 to 10 years? you talked about businesses, Black-owned businesses, people of color-owned businesses, but I think really what's important is seeing more of us in leadership. One, for representation, and two, I want to see more of us not just at the table impactfully, but owning that table. I want to see all of us in positions of power and impact. So, I mean, for me being, a woman of color in tech, I have the luck to be around a lot of phenomenal women who are already in positions of leadership, and they are inspiration for me to go into positions of leadership. So if we only continue to grow that line of seeing us in leadership, I think that's just going to be, that's where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years. Like, no doubt, that's where we're going to be in leadership, owning businesses, having, adding more to the conversation, not just like to be part of the conversation, but it's our conversation now. It's our table now. So, I mean, that was just my little piece I wanted to throw out there, because I believe that we are an important piece. And, like Davin said earlier, it's got to be us. It's got to be us. And that's where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years. That's what I see.
So to piggyback off of that, yep. It can be done. It can be us. It has to be us. And to the part about the table, Marty just said, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. However, to O'Shea's point, ownership is important, because what happens is we're begging for a seat at the table. Too many times where the kids or the cousins that got the small table, over here in the corner, and we're getting the scraps. So we have to build our own table. So it has to be us. It can't be done. It can't be us. It has to be us. And we need to build our own tables, and we need to, and like I said, and we need to share the wealth amongst each other. It can't be the same crabs in the barrel mentality. So if we're going to succeed, we all have to succeed. It can't be, I'm going to hold this one back and that one back or whatever. It's we build each other up, build our own, and get it to a point where they either have to respect us or deal with us respectfully. I'm still behaving myself.
No, and this isn't, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this, but like, I do see that when, Davin, like I reached out to you, right? I'm like, hey, I have this coming up, it'd be great if you can get involved. It's pivotal for us, like, to legit support each other in the business side. Like, I've only been doing this for about 3 years, but I know I've definitely been in situations where there have been people I've reached out to that I wanted to kind of share a contract with, and it's, I'm too busy or whatnot. And then I'll get a call because they don't understand I have a relationship with the company that I'm looking to get the contract for, and say, hey, by the way, so-and-so? Because they reached out to me out of nowhere, like shot me an email kind of asking, hey, we have something going on? And I'm like, a part of me, it hurts to say yes, because I'm like, well, no, I mean, I just spoke to them yesterday asking if they'd like to come in on it with me. But I know I've had it happen to me before. It's the reality, it's crabs in the barrel, but it's also, nunchuck behind the back around I'm just going to go, I'm going to sidestep him and, go talk to this person. I'm like, not only is that
cut out the middleman,
it makes us look stupid, and like we don't have it together. Like, what would you hope to achieve from that, right? Like, you're pulling down one person to pull yourself up, and then at the same time alienating yourself in this very small community of cybersecurity practitioners of people of color. That's one thing I'd say as a final thought. It's a really small community, and people talk. So doing dumb stuff is not the right way to approach it. Trying to backstab and play Game of Thrones, in the world of cybersecurity is not the best approach. It's not clean. It's not a good look. If the idea is for us to shine and us to come up together, it's stupid I have to say this. Together is the key word here.
At the same time, I think when I think about the next 5-10 years, Marty brought it up, but in other communities or other minority groups, they may not have as many networks that I've seen, at least being, Black in cyber. It sounds bad, but I'm surprised in a good way about how many different groups are the support groups. I mean, look, we got Read the Cyber Boss, we have this IDS podcast, we have DJX Alpha Cybersecurity, we have Tech Sections, all these people coming up with enterprising type of ways to either represent their brand, kind of share what they know, and build a community to help other people get in. And I think over time, we definitely continue to see that built out. And I mean, I don't think there's a limit as to where that can continue to go as people continue to own the table, create those tables, and just being able to see that mature to where we have conversations and say, look, I know who to pick from because look, Ree's got something over here. I can talk to her. She's like, oh, look, I got someone coming up, and we can kind of all pick within ourselves. And I think it's going to be beautiful to see that evolve over the next 10 years as people continue to move up to more senior individuals. But then there's, yes, that's still that fight within corporations to, move up. It has to happen on both sides, but that's what I look forward to.
And I know we are short on time, so we'll go around and get final thoughts from everyone. And if you haven't, please do drop your contact information, LinkedIn, so whatever you feel comfortable, sharing. Because I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. So I have the feeling, people watching this are going to enjoy it too. So there's a good chance, someone's going to reach out to you.
Yeah, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Honestly, there was so many things that we wanted to talk about, and the time has flown by. But I think, and I'm sure a lot of those who viewed this, these are things that needed to be heard, and these are it was definitely worth it. The conversation and needed to be had. But we'll go around and do final thoughts. I'll go popcorn it over to Mckenna.
Yeah, so I mean, I think final thoughts is I've gotten to take a lot away from this experience myself. I've learned something new about cyber psychology and law. So thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. I've learned so much, but I mean, I think just what I've taken away is what I've always taken away from since I've been here is the community. We have a really strong community of people here, and I just hope we continue to build that out and bring more people up behind us. That's my final thought, honestly.
Marty?
I'll be very short. All I want to say is be gentle, generous, and gracious to everyone, the 3 Gs. It's been a tough time. Help everyone out. Support others. That's it. And thank you for providing this.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Jury, go to popcorn over to you.
I just want to say I love doing panels like this. I love talking to other people who are in this field. I learned a lot. I think this was a very good conversation. What else? I learned so much, and I'm going to be relocating to Dallas in a couple months. So McKenna, we definitely.
I got you. Come on over.
I just want to say I learn something new every day, and I just put a new blog post out, everybody. So go and support, and share. Make sure you follow my social media because I think that I do a lot of good stuff to. Steven said earlier, I turn boring stuff into fun stuff. I made a video and argued with Siri about connecting to public Wi-Fi, and people thought it was really, really funny. I guess that's just my final thoughts. I mean, this is awesome. I love people who have podcasts and, who have blogs. It's up and coming and it's great. And make sure you subscribe to Read the Cyber Boss.
I think that's one thing that I do love about these panels is connecting, like you said. You know, y'all will be in Dallas. Kalila will be coming over here to Georgia. So I mean, and now you know people. I think this is fantastic. Stephen, over to you.
Get myself off mute. I want to say it's been a pleasure to be a part of this panel. I'm, to say I learned from you guys is understanding. I'm also just happy to be around, other ambitious, Black and like Latinx people. I do not get this type of, interaction at my job. So, more of this is definitely good for the soul. Look, I love us. I'm rooting for everybody Black. So anything I can, do to help, push that forward, like that, I'm all for it. And I guess to anybody that is watching, you are, wonderful. You are capable. You can do whatever you set your mind to. And if at any point in time I can be a resource, let me know.
It's awesome. Thank you. I guess it's Atia Davin.
Ozzy, you want to go ahead and jump in there?
I said Oxy, my bad.
Hi. Yeah, so it has been a very fun conversation. I just want to say especially Jiri, Mckenna, Kalila, you guys are very inspiring. I am not a starter by any means. I am more of a supporting person. Like, you go start, do all the troublesome stuff, then I come and support you. That's how I am. So to hear your stories, how it's like you're at this point, but then you start off something and try to make other people feel welcome, I think that's super impressive. And yeah, so one of the takeaways I got from you is representation is important. I remember I was invited to speak on a podcast about breaking into cybersecurity. Then a guy reached out to me. He's like, "Oh man, this is so cool. Now my younger sister has somebody that she can look up to in the field." And I didn't get how important it was at the time, but the more I hear these stories, it impresses on me that, sense of representation is important. So yeah, that's my takeaway from this whole thing. It has been a fun conversation. I got to meet you, and Davin finally followed me on Twitter, so that's good.
I feel personally attacked. Well, first of all, O'Shea, Sienna, it's always love. It's always a pleasure. You guys can reach out to me anytime. To everybody here, thank you. Like I said, I met some new people. Ozzy, I'm sorry. But to everybody here, thank you for your input. Marty, Stephen, Ms. Spicer, Kalila, Mckenna, thank you all for your input. And, like I said, it makes us better. Like I said, steel sharpens steel. And to all the people who are watching or will be watching, thank you for taking your time to watch and listen to all of us. And for those who feel like they have something to say, but I'm not sure if, it's welcome or if they have enough knowledge to speak on it, start a blog, start something on social media. We all have, people have different stuff in social media. LinkedIn, you can do blogs on LinkedIn if you're just on LinkedIn. Start. Why? You never know who you will touch or who you'll reach out to. It's like Ozzy said, like the other day I was in Micro Center and someone freaked out when they saw my name and started telling me about how they were trying to get their kid to talk about cybersecurity, to get their kid in cybersecurity or their kid interested in technology, but they listened to me from a previous talk. And, sometimes it's that, it's the little things. So you have a voice in here. If you're putting in the work, then you deserve to have a voice just like everybody else. And like I said, it has to be, it can be done. It can be us. It has to be us. And we need to build that table. And like I said, if you guys don't invite us to yours, we'll build our own. It's going to be bigger, better, and shinier. Happy. And that's it. Again, see, I behaved myself the whole show.
Well done, sir.
Good job.
Well, again, thank you, everyone, for taking time. I know it's Friday. It's 8 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock. So, I appreciate everyone taking time and coming to hang out with us. And a really big thanks to Lauren and Camille from Share the Mic and Cyber for collaborating with us on this. Definitely looking forward to having more fits like this.